Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Rachel and I am knitting. Not right now, but most of the time. And I have been knitting, so I'm going to tell you all about it. Before I do that though, I have to say, the situation that I'm in right now is a little weird. Today is Monday, September 8th, and the last time I filmed a podcast was last week on Wednesday, and that episode is not going up until tomorrow, September 9th. So this is the first time that I have filmed a podcast before the preceding episode has even gone live on YouTube. Look how on top of it I am. And I have to say, this video almost didn't happen today because after I got my adult tasks completed in the beginning of the day and a good chunk of knitting in. I will be honest, I did spend a few hours knitting today, lucky me. But I was pooped and I wasn't in the mood to sit and talk to a camera. But then I rallied. Actually, here's what happened, truly. I started my day watching an episode of Gilmore Girls and working on my Gilmore Girls rewatch project, which I'll show you about shortly. And then I spent several hours doing my tasks for the day, a lot of computer work, a lot of correspondence, a lot of dotting the I's and crossing the T's. And then I watched 3 more episodes of Gilmore Girls and I knit through all of them, and my hand was perturbed. My hand said, "Ow! Rachel, be nicer to me." So I thought that was it for the day. My hand hurt. I was feeling discomfort. Wasn't really in the mood to continue on being productive, and I was just in a bad mood because if my hand hurt, I wasn't going to continue knitting. I certainly wasn't going to spin. I wasn't going to crochet because my hand hurt, and that put me in a foul mood, just a foul disposition. So I sat in bed and I used the Bob and Brad hand massager, and I think I'll probably use it again after I'm done filming before I go back to knitting. Um, but that helped put a little bit of pep in my step and helped me rally, kind of put the foul disposition at bay. So now I'm here relatively chipper and ready to talk to you. So let's get going into our yap session. Today is, what is it? Did I already tell you? It's September 8th. It's Monday. So this video should go up on YouTube a week from tomorrow, which will be September 16th. Tuesday, September 16th. Yes, indeed. So, with that said, let's go ahead and get started. Today's video is episode 62 of my weekly podcast series, which is a series where I walk you through all of my making progress over the course of the week prior. And in this case, I have 5 days of project progress to show you, which admittedly is less than the goal of a 7-day week. However, it kind of evens out because sometimes I go 3 weeks without an update. So I figure you will forgive me for this 5-day lump of progress. But mostly, it doesn't matter if you forgive me or not, because that is what's happening here today. And the reason that I wanted to film today on Monday, or record today on Monday, there's no film in this camera, and I know some of you care about that. Words matter, but also language is fluid. You need to acknowledge that balance. Anyway, the reason that I'm filming today on Monday is because I want to get in the habit of filming the podcasts on Monday, and therefore that meant that the distance between the last time I recorded a podcast and the distance between me recording this podcast is 5 days. Okay, so we just have to deal with it. If that puts a bee in your bonnet, you're just gonna have to learn to live with a bee in your bonnet, or I don't know, build a bridge and get over it. So let's get started. Episode 62. My lord. This episode covers my making progress from September 3rd through the morning of today, September 8th. So we'll start the podcast, as always, with project updates. And the first project I have to update you on, I just don't know. So I have to tell you, I don't think that I worked on this from Wednesday of last week to today. I mean, I might have worked on this Thursday. I might have worked on this Wednesday night. I think I did work on this Wednesday night, but I did not work on it Friday. I did not work on it Saturday, Sunday, or today, Monday. So if I did make any progress, it was just a few rows here and there. So what I'm going to do today, let's see if I have one handy in my Jam PDX berry container. I'm trying to stock this with some knickknacks, but I keep forgetting to do it, and keeping it next to my craft room chair. But I've got this fuchsia marker, which is very special to me. This is designed by Kat Strickland of Cesium Yarn, or it's drawn by Kat, and it's printed or cut out of whatever the acrylic material is by Twin Mountain Handcrafts. It's a cute little fuchsia flower stitch marker. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on the row that I'm at now. And then next week, if I have worked on this, I can definitively look at this and see if I've made progress. So the fuchsia flower is on the last row worked, and we'll see what next week holds. I should tell you, this is the Alchemy Tee. It's an upcoming design from Leslie of Nick, California, and it is reminiscent of her iconic Alchemy pullover. A little background on the Alchemy pullover, because I think I misspoke in the last podcast about this pattern. So this is a pattern that was released in January of 2025. In fact, now am I misremembering again? Let me just double check. I'm pretty sure it's January. Yes, January of 2025. I test knit the Alchemy pullover in December of 2024. The test knit was longer than just 1 month, but I just knit mine in the month of December. And the Alchemy pullover is inspired by a sweater that Taylor Swift wore to a Kansas City Chiefs football game. I almost said baseball game, but that is factually incorrect. So that is a DK weight pullover. Now Leslie has written the pattern for a fingering weight t-shirt version, and that's what I'm knitting here. This is a preview knit, so this pattern is not yet in testing, but it should be in the near future or the foreseeable future. So keep an eye out for that. It has this really beautiful slip stitch detail that I just think is so clean looking. So it's just like sharp and packs a punch. It's very visually gratifying. So that's what I'm working on here. The Alchemy Tee by Leslie of Nick, California. Not a pattern available for purchase yet, but it will be in testing soon. So if you want to test this, keep an eye out for the test call from Leslie. And whether or not I made progress this past week, again, is a mystery. But I think I'll have to measure to make sure, but I think I'm done with the back panel. So what I'm going to do next, or if I'm not done with the back panel, I'll knit a few more rows to make sure I am. But what I'll do next is I will pick up the front panels. So this is the shoulder slope right here. I'll pick up stitches for the front panel on the left side and the front panel on the right side. I'll knit those two separately, and then I'll join them together once they, once the pattern says that I've knit the correct amount of rows and stitches, etc. And then I'll join in the round. So what would be fabulous is if next week, when you see this, which will be, so next week from the day, whatever, I'm confusing myself with this timeline of me recording so far in advance and then the podcast going up. But again, like I told you in the last podcast, I'm really valuing this buffer, and I really want to continue to implement it because it's like an insurance policy for when I'm in Ireland this October, which for you seeing this is just a few short weeks away that I'll be in Ireland. I'm looking at my calendar from across the room, and if this video is going up on Tuesday, September 16th, that means 2.5 weeks from that time that you're watching this, if you're watching this when it goes live, 2.5 weeks, and I will be on my knitting tour. So basically, I'm trying to give myself wiggle room so I can have videos still be uploaded on a consistent schedule while I'm gone in Ireland. I have a few other videos that I want to make for that. Like I want to make my I-cord comparison video that can go up. I want to make my Doppio finished object diary. I want to make a California sweater finished object diary. But also finished object diary videos take a mental toll because I try to make sure that I'm as clear and concise as possible. And as you can tell, that's difficult for me because a second ago I was talking about the alchemy tea, and now I'm talking about who knows what. So anyway, I'm trying to keep my ducks in a row, but gosh, they are strong-willed ducks and they want to step out of line often. So anyway, here's the alchemy tea. And next week for sure we'll know if I made progress. Okay, that's it for the first project to update you on. The second project I have is, well, there's 3 projects that I want to update you on. The first is another 1x1 ribbed hat. So in the last podcast episode, I showed you 2 1x1 ribbed hats that I made during that week's progress. And here's another one. Here's another one. So I know for a fact I worked on this on Thursday. I cast this on last week on Thursday, so on September 4th. And I cast it off on Friday, September 5th. Now, this is knit up with Knit Picks. I want to say antipasto, but that is not what it is. I think it's antiplano. What is it called? Altiplano yarn. So this is a skein of yarn that Knit Picks gifted me a while ago with like a sampler pack of different yarns to try. And the Altiplano or Plano is a 65% wool and 35% alpaca. It's very rustic. I'm pretty sure this is non-superwash. And it's a worsted weight yarn with 218 yards per 100 grams. Now, when Knit Picks sent me this little sampler package, the skein of Altiplano stuck out to me as the one I was most excited to work with. I really like the feel of it. It feels very substantial, very woolly. I like that rustic feel. So it was just hanging on my yarn wall ever since I received it, and I didn't know what to work it up into. Now, last week, I really wanted to keep riding the wave of this 1x1 knit hat that I just couldn't seem to shake, being captivated by. As I'm looking at this, I'm wondering if I dropped a stitch. What is going on here? No, I don't know what's this. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, I wanted a quick grab and go project, and well, actually, rather, I'm getting ahead of myself. What happened was I didn't really know what to work on Thursday. I was kind of at a crossroads. I knew that I was going to be out and about, and I wanted something that I could throw in my purse and take with me, and I couldn't really settle on anything. So I ended up just grabbing this skein of Altiplano and winding it up into a cake and taking it with me. I worked on this 1x1 ribbed hat throughout the day Thursday, and then on Friday I took this with me because we went to visit DJ's parents for the weekend, and I finished it at his parents' house. I initially was thinking that this would go in my gift pile for Christmas hats, but then I tried it on, and I mean, not right now because I have a ponytail, and this is just simply not the look. But when I tried it on with my hair down, I thought, I'm a little cutie patootie, so maybe I should keep this hat for myself. However, I have so many hats. Do I need to really do that? Really, do I need to do that? But also, I made it. And if I like it and it makes me happy, I am allowed to keep it by law. So I need to search my heart for it. I haven't blocked it yet. And honestly, if I were to put it on my head and give it to someone, I would wash it first. So, like, if I had already blocked it, I would wash it again. That's one of my pet peeves, by the way. I don't like when people wear other things and then like sell them. I feel like you should wash them first. Maybe people do, like people who make hand knit hats and stuff for sale, but then they promote it by wearing it. that gives me the ick. Maybe they wash it before they send it off to the buyer. I don't know. It's not my business. But anyway, for me personally, if I do put this in the Christmas pile, I will not put this back on my head without washing it after and then putting it back in the Christmas pile. Anyway, I digress. As I said, it's hard for me to stay on task. So, some things I learned when making this hat. Since it's a worsted weight yarn that I used the adult medium for sizing, worked great. And as I discussed in last week's episode, the ribbing, this is the ribbing as I was knitting it with the right side facing. But then when I was done, I wanted to put it inside out so the ribbing would be a little crispier. However, something that I noticed on this one that I didn't necessarily notice on the other ones is that since the decreases are knit two together, on the wrong side, it looks like purl two together and it has a different effect. So I'm thinking that when I make another version of this hat, because I'm not sick of it yet, this is my 4th in the last, 30 days or so. I want to try doing a purl two together for the decrease and just seeing what that does. On the other hats that I put inside out, one is a hand spun and one is a dark black yarn. I didn't notice that with the decreases, but I think because this purple is not so dark, I can see that much more clearly. So I'm just going to play around with it, and I think that after I make 2 or 3 more of these, I'll really lock down the sweet spot of my preference when making this pattern, which I should have said at the beginning is the classic ribbed hat by Purl Soho. This is a free pattern on purlsoho.com, and it comes in multiple sizes for multiple different ages, so you can find what works for you. It's written for a DK, but like I said, this is a worsted. It worked fine. It's written to be knit on size US 3 needles. I knit all 4 of mine, the ones I knit recently, on size US 4, and that was absolutely fine. So you can really play around with this pattern, and I intend to continue doing so. I have some more single skeins. Oh, the dryer's done. I have some more single skeins in my yarn collection that I think I will turn into the 1x1 rib hat, the classic ribbed hat. But I keep calling it 1x1 rib, but it's called the classic ribbed hat. Yeah, so I just need to poke around my stash, or my collection, I should say, especially my hand spun. I think the hand spun looks really, really good in this hat. Not necessarily the hand spun that I've used to make my first 2 of these recent hats. I've made them before, but when I say recent, I mean like in the last month that I have knit this pattern. But Kate of Red Door Fiber Studio, she made a couple of this pattern in her hand spun, and I love how hers turned out. So I need to discern what skeins of hand spun I want to give away, because there are some that I'm looking at, like I'm looking at them on my yarn wall right now, and they don't make me feel like I want them as a hat for myself. So if I knit them up as a hat, they will go in my gift pile. But do I want to give away some of these skeins even though I don't want them for myself in a hat? Like maybe I want them for myself as something else. So I just need to search my feelings on that. But there's an update on this project. It is a complete classic ribbed hat from Purl Soho. Free pattern. Highly recommend. You can have lots of fun with this one. All right, so that's the first project that I brought with me when we visited DJ's parents. The second project that I brought with me was this Christmas stocking that I'm making for my aunt. And this is the first time something like this has happened to me. Long story short, I brought 3 projects with me, and it kind of was not the right number. Usually I bring too many projects, but this time I arguably brought too few. So here's what happened. I'm working on this Christmas stocking for my aunt, and it's going great. I'm using Cascade 220. This, by the way, is like a Christmas stocking pack pattern by the Pearl Hunter, I think is the name of the designer. And I've made many of these, like in the 30s of stockings I've made over the last few years. So a few years ago, I made stockings for my aunt on behalf of all her kids and their partners, so my cousins and their partners. And since then, one of my cousins has had another little baby. So, of course, another stocking needs to be added to their family stocking collection. So, I'm working on this stocking for the new baby. And I brought it with me to visit DJ's parents, thinking I'll be able to knock this out no problem. I finished the hat that I brought with me on Friday. Saturday, I'm working away on this stocking, and what happens? But I ran out of green yarn. Oh, I'm on the leg of the stocking. So the foot is totally done. Here's the toe, here's the heel. I'm working on the leg and ran out of green yarn. And it was especially infuriating and upsetting to me because when I was packing up the yarn to bring for the weekend away, I looked at the little ball of yarn, the green yarn that I was bringing for the stocking, and I thought, this seems like not enough. Maybe I should bring another wad of green. And then I thought, Rachel, be serious. You do not need both of these wads of green. Surely one of the wads will be more than enough. Well, guess what, past self? You are wrong. Embarrassing for you, because I did run out of green. So that left me with no choice. I had to turn to the third project that I brought with me for our weekend away. And this is where the guilt is going to start to set in. Actually, I've been absolved of this guilt since then, but at the time I felt kind of guilty. So, you may remember from last week's podcast, I told you that I'm rewatching Gilmore Girls, and I'm working on a Gilmore Girls specific rewatch project, where I only work on that during my rewatch time. I'm also starting to watch Vampire Diaries, and during my viewing of Vampire Diaries, I have a specific project that I'm watching. So, I brought the yarn for Shoop the African Flower Sheep, thinking maybe when DJ's parents go to bed, and if DJ's going to bed and I'm not tired yet, I'll have my iPad and I can watch an episode of the Vampire Diaries, and I'll bring Shoop the African Flower Sheep to work on. Well, that never happened. I never stayed up later than anyone, and I didn't watch a second of Vampire Diaries over the weekend. But I literally had no choice. I had finished my hat. I was at a standstill with my stocking. And so the yarn for Shoop the African Flower Sheep was just staring at me, begging me to give in to my demons. And so I did. I had no choice. And I make no apologies except for the apologies I made earlier to Leslie. So I worked on Shoop the African Flower Sheep. And I made all of the hexagons that are required for the body, save for the final row in the cream color, because I decided I'm going to do the join as you go method, which means every motif, you leave the last row and then you work that as you join as you go. So I don't really know the ins and outs of it. I just know that's what I'm doing. So the first hexagon, or yeah, hexagon. First hexagon, the six-sided flower, I did all 5 rows, and then after that, the additional hexagons, I only did the first 4 rows. So they're all in here. I have all of the hexagons done. Now I'm doing the pentagons, and I'm just going according to the pattern. This is all that I have left of the light purple, though. When Leslie and I went to Flock and were purchasing the Sorella yarn, There we go. We were purchasing the Sorella yarn. We got 2 skeins of the cream color and only 1 skein each of the dark color and the light color, thinking surely the main color, the cream color, is going to be what takes up the most yarn, but I'm learning maybe that's not true. I think I will have enough, but that light purple is definitely what's being eaten the fastest, because if you look at these hexagons, obviously that light purple is being used the most, the majority of the time, because the dark purple, you just got the center, you got this cute little outline, and then the cream, just an outline there. So we'll see what happens. Fingers crossed it all works out. But there's the progress on Shoop, and I did start the first episode of Vampire Diaries today, so I might finish the first episode today, and I'll keep working on Shoop. But again, I think I'm going to do another hand massage before I do that. But there's the update on Shoop. I'm making pretty good progress, despite the fact that I didn't watch Vampire Diaries throughout any of it yet, but I will. I will. And then that leaves the final project to update you on from this week, which is my Felix cardigan. Oh my goodness. I would work on this all day if I could, but as has been established, my hands would be very upset with me. Look how far I am. So my goal for the Gilmore Girls rewatch was to watch 7 episodes a week. And technically the week for that would start on Wednesdays. So I wanted to be done with the first 7 episodes of season 1 by Wednesday of this week. And this morning I finished, or this afternoon, early afternoon, I finished episode 7. So I have done my first week's goal, and I've knit only on my Felix during the rewatches. So how far have I gotten? I am on the final eyelet raglan increase. Did I say what this is? This is the Felix cardigan by Amy Christoffers, if I haven't said that. But the way that this cardigan is constructed, obviously it is top down, so I cast on here at the neck, and then it's a raglan, but it's not a traditional raglan. The way the raglan increases work is that it's a series of eyelets, of little arrows. It's just a really, really cute detail, very delicate, very whimsical, very cute. It reminds me of the type of thing I would wear as a little girl. It's just like so sweet and just cute. So I just love this. I love the Felix cardigan pattern. I love my purple version that I knit earlier this year, and I'm so excited to have this green version in my wardrobe. So just one more set of eyelet raglan increases, and then I think I'll be ready to split for sleeves. I don't remember if you knit more after that final eyelet you want to do. But the nice thing about the Felix is all the sizes start the same. The differential for what size you're making basically comes down to how many eyelet increases you do. So for my size, a size 4, I'm going to do 7 sets, if I remember correctly. And yeah, so really happy with that. I think that for the week 2 goal, so to watch 7 more episodes, I will definitely have split for sleeves, which is super exciting. And this is going to be a really quick knit. So realistically, I need to start thinking about what my next Gilmore Girls exclusive rewatch project will be. Jackie from Jackie's Making suggested it be the Straya, and I use this as my motivation to finish the Straya. And I could just drop kick that idea into the ether. Not happening. Maybe after I get a few more projects churned out during this rewatch, but I'm just not there yet. I'm not there yet, okay? Also, I have a lot of thoughts on Gilmore Girls rewatching it. This is not the first time I've rewatched it. It's not the first time I've rewatched it as a better person than I was when I watched it originally. But oh my goodness, it's a horrifying show. Every character is bad. They're bad people. But I can't look away, and I love them so much, and I'm rooting for their success as sincerely as I am rooting for their demise, you know? So that's going really well, and I'm loving every stitch of this Felix cardigan. I love the fabric that this makes. I'm using one strand of analog DK from Sam of Clockwork Fiber Co. in the colorway Hunter. This is beautiful green. And then I'm also using one strand of Chime Surrey in another beautiful green. This is, I can't remember if it's green 1 or green 2, but it doesn't really matter for you because it's like a one-of-a-kind batch. So the name is not really important. It is a green of some sort, and held together, it just creates a beautiful, luxurious, and very much enjoyed and appreciated fabric. I'm just loving it. So good. So there's the update on my Felix, and with that, I believe that's all of the projects that I have to update you on. So let's move now to the spin diary section of the podcast. Yesterday, Sunday, after we got home from visiting DJ's parents, I sat down at my spinning wheel because the weather was really nice when we visited his parents and we got to sit outside and it wasn't sweltering. It was very enjoyable. And I kept thinking, man, I wish my spinning wheel were here. Wouldn't it be so nice to just sit and spin while we enjoy our time outside? So when we got home, that's what I did. I sat and I spun. And I know that in the last podcast episode, I said that the Yarn Jam braid was going to be my fall spin. But Leslie was saying how soft the bats from Witchfire Fibers were, because I think she started spinning her bats. And so I decided I'll do that too. So yesterday, from start to finish, I spun Poppy's bats. I had 2 bats totaling about almost 5 ounces of Poppy's fleece. And I don't think this skein is 5 ounces. I haven't weighed it because it's still damp, actually. I need to untwist it when I'm done showing you and let it hang to dry more. But this was quite a learning experience. Bats are quite difficult to spin, or maybe I didn't prep it correctly, or I don't know, but it was not what I was used to. And it was very frustrating to me at times, but I'm not going to let that deter me from continuing to spin bats. I want to build proficiency and build skill. And I have 2 bats still from Jess of Witchfire Fibers. The bats I have left are from Charlie. And the reason I'm saying their names is because both of these fleeces are from Jess's personal flock of sheep, like her pet sheep. So there's little placards with each bat telling you about the sheep that it came from, what their personality is like, all that stuff. So this is from Poppy, and I have Charlie still. Now, this is what's left on my bobbin from the Poppy spin. It's a good amount, so I thought maybe I could use this to practice chain plying, but it's not really that much, so I don't know. What I've been doing lately when I have extra on my bobbins is I just put it in my Hedgehog Fibers scrap bag, but I don't know. That feels a little disrespectful to Poppy, so I don't know. Thoughts on what I should do, what you would do? Let me know in the comments. But here is the finished skein from the Poppy spin. As you can see, it is not the most even spin that I have ever accomplished. In fact, it reminds me a bit of my first ever skein of yarn that I spun from Corriedale. And yeah, do you see the similarities? Yes, there are similarities, but it is so squishy and so soft. This is merino. It was maybe not a joy to spin because of the learning curve, and I hate not being proficient in things. It really frustrates me. But in order to be proficient, you have to practice and you have to get through the stages of learning and, faltering and not being as skilled as you would like to be. That's all part of it. Unfortunately, we can't just wake up and be good at stuff all the time. Oh, so frustrating, but true. So, anyway, while this was not necessarily a joy to spin for those reasons, the final product, at least in terms of squish and softness, is very exciting. So I could see this being a hat. I could see it being a scarf. I'm not really sure. Like last episode, I told you the yarn that I made my Sophie shawl in, as soon as it was off my wheel, I saw it as a garter shawl. This, I don't know what I see it as, but I'm very glad that I have it. So there's my spin diary. I would be surprised if that is the only thing I spin in the month of September, but you never know. We'll see. But worst case scenario, I've got my September spin checked off the list, and we can move on to other spins. So things that I'm thinking about for my next spin, the yarn jam braid that I showed you in last podcast episode. I'm also thinking about my pigment and ply braids that I got from Flock. I do have braids outside of my flock fiber, of course, but I'm trying to ride the wave of spinning fiber I got at Flock until it crashes, because I feel like if I stop digging from my Flock bin for my next spin choices, then I might forget about it, or my priorities might change. So I just want to get as much Flock fiber spun as I can before I lose focus. So that's my plan. I'm going to keep diving into the Flock bin of the fiber I purchased and get through as much as I can. So I'll let you know next week what I end up choosing. If I am spinning next week, who knows? The wind might blow me away from spinning for a little while. It might not. Who knows? But that's it for Spin Diary. Let's move next to acquisitions. I have two acquisitions, well, two vendors from whom I purchased acquisitions. So you may remember me singing the praises of this raspberry stitch marker that I got at Flock. This is from Heather Ellis Art. Oh, I love it so much. It's one of my favorite stitch markers now. And I just couldn't get enough of it, so I looked on Heather's website if she had any more, and she had this most beautiful blackberry stitch marker. And look at what makes it so special. There are two beads on here that are not as dark as the others. You see that one there? And then there's another one here. Do you see? I just thought that was such a cute touch and made it look so realistic, because that's like really what blackberries look like. So I'm really excited to have another one of these. And then the other acquisition is something I got from Long Dog Yarn, which actually came in the mail today. And it is some things I needed and also something as a treat. So the other day, I was looking at hat patterns. This was actually when I was deciding what to make, and I eventually landed on the classic ribbed hat. But I was looking at hat patterns that were for worsted weight yarn, and I needed a size 7 needle. And when I work small circumference, I prefer to use Chiagu shorties, which are 3-inch interchangeable tips. And I couldn't find my size 7 3-inch tips. So I decided it's time that I invest in some of the shorty tips that I use frequently, that often I can't find because they're tied up in a project or I misplaced them or something. So I decided to get some sizes that I frequently use. So I went to longdogyarn.com. Brandy, she has Chiagu needles. She's a wholesaler. And this is a great person to support versus a billionaire with a website that ships things from A to Z. Brandy also has Chiagus, so why not support Brandy instead of Jeffrey? So I purchased size US 7, size US 8, size US 4, and size US 6 in the 3-inch interchangeable Chiagu tips. Use these all the time. I exclusively use Chiagu needles. So I'm glad that I finally invested in that. And then, serendipitously, in terms of timing, I saw that Brandy had marked a lot of her spinning fiber to reduced prices, in particular her Yarn of Enchantment or Fiber of Enchantment colors. So I got this braid of Rio Grande del Norte on Shanico silk. And the blend is 80% Shanico, 20% mulberry silk. So I'm really excited to spin this up. I don't think I have spun Shanico silk before. I've spun Rambouillet silk from Brandy, and I've spun like a merino silk blend and a bamboo merino silk blend, but I don't think Shanico silk. I'm looking at my fiber on the wall. No, I don't think Shanico silk. So this will be a first for me. I'm very excited. I have also spun this colorway before. I spun the Polworth braid that I purchased during the collection, I think, a few months ago, way back when, by this time. And I love how that hand spun skein turned out. In fact, let me grab it so you can see a little bit of a comparison. So here's what it looks like spun up, at least in Polworth fiber. And here's what it looks like in braid form. So this will be the same colorway, just a different fiber blend, different breed of sheep. Shanico versus Polworth. And then obviously mulberry silk is not a breed of sheep. It is a plant fiber from mulberry trees. So exciting. So that's the update on my acquisitions. That's what I got. A stitch marker, some needle tips, and fiber. So now that we've gone through acquisitions, let's go through announcements. I have the same 2 announcements as before. Hopefully they are still relevant. Maybe that's a downside of filming so far in advance. But as of today, September 8th, there are 2 spots left on my Knit the Wild Atlantic Way tour. This takes place from May 11th through 20th, 2026. This is going to be an exciting tour, and it blends a lot of the natural beauty and landscapes of Ireland and Northern Ireland with a lot of the history of manufacturing and the current landscape of wool production. So we go to places like Giant's Causeway, we go to multiple farms, 2 sheep farms and an alpaca farm. We go to the Titanic Belfast exhibit. We have different wool related activities, and there's workshops or demonstrations on everything from needle felting to colorwork knitting to weaving to spinning. All of this and more is included in the Knit the Wild Atlantic Way tour. So it's going to be very, very exciting. The second tour that I still have space available on is the 4th annual Irish Knitting Tour, and that one takes place from October 5th through 14th of 2026. I know I shouldn't play favorites, but this is my favorite tour that I offer. It has a special place in my heart now and forever, and I'd love for you to experience it with me. We go to Crafts of Ireland, where we get to see Sandra Coote's workshop. She makes us an afternoon tea from scratch. We get to stay at luxury accommodations. Last year, I saw Maisie Williams in the lobby of the Royal Marine Hotel. She and Bill Nighy were staying there. I was starstruck. It was amazing. That's the thing that really happened. It could happen to you if you come on the 2026 tour. We also go to Zwart Bliss Sheep Farm in Kilkenny. While we're there, we also stay at a 5-star hotel in Kilkenny, the Lyrith Estate Hotel. It's absolutely fabulous. We visit the Nicholas Moss Pottery Studio. I plan to purchase my future urn there. That's a whole story for another day. But I digress. It's an incredible trip, and I'd love to have you experience it with me. So if you're interested in either of those trips, you can go to rachelisknitting.com/tours or scan the QR code that's been on the screen while I've been yapping about these tours to get the full itinerary along with cost breakdown and booking information. Of course, always, if you ever have questions, you can feel free to email me at rachelisknitting@gmail.com. But that's it for announcements, I do believe. I hope that you're doing well and that you're having a wonderful day and that whatever you're working on is bringing you joy. Don't forget to take breaks. Don't forget to remember. Don't forget to remember. Remember, that's a more concise way to say it. Remember that it's okay to put a project down if it's not sparking joy. You do not have to suffer through the hobby that brings you enjoyment. Okay? Okay. Just remember that. Just think about it. Just think about it. Okay, now that I have checked the box of my weekly obligation to remind you to find joy in what you do in terms of knitting, crochet, sewing, etc., and spinning, or watercoloring, or whittling, or whatever. Let's not bring up whittling. Backtrack. Anyway, hope you're doing great. Hope that whatever you're working on is making you feel great. And if it's not, put it down and take a break. Okay. I'm rooting for you. Thanks for your interest and watching and supporting me. It truly means a lot, and I'll see you next time. Bye.